Welcome to this week's episode of Retire Simply DFW, the show that helps you navigate the complexities of your retirement. I'm your host, Kristen Oakley, and I'm joined in the studio by Scott and Angela Winstead. They are the co-founders of 𝗃𝗄𝗄 Retirement. Scott, Angela, hi friends. How are you this week?
Great, how are you doing?
Fantastic. I'm great. I'm loving the leopard print. It looks fabulous on you.
Thank you. You're very sweet. Yeah.
So fun. Well, I know you've put together another great show, jam-packed with information. We were just talking about how this time always flies by so quickly in the studio. We're going to be talking today about the most important thing when it comes to your retirement. Do you want to take a guess? Do you know what that thing is? Here's what I will say to tee this up is that in my work as a financial educator, and I know as your work of meeting with folks as financial planners, retirement planning specialists, which is what you are, I think one of the most common questions all three of us get is, am I going to be okay? Mm-hmm. And really at the heart of that question is this question of, am I going to outlive my money? Mm-hmm. There's that fear that's going on, right? Yes. So we're going to be addressing that fear today by talking about the most important thing when it comes to your retirement, which is income.
That's right. Income, no doubt, no doubt.
So why, again, I mean, I think we all know that income is important, but why is it that much more critically important in retirement? Let's start with that.
You know, for years and years, well over 15 years, we have been helping people retire. Mm-hmm. And for a long time, with a lot of the live events and the educational events that we do in the Metroplex, for a while we would survey all the attendees and we would ask them, what is your biggest financial concern? And we'd have a blank on the form and we would instruct them, hey, fill that out. And after years and years of folks writing the answer, and far and away, bar none, the number one answer to my biggest financial concern is running out of money. Mm-hmm. So it is not uncommon at all if you're sitting there thinking to yourself, geez, I just hope this whole thing works out and I've saved enough. But the reason income is so important to your retirement is because without income, you don't have a retirement. You're not working anymore. And so what we've got to make sure is that you have plenty of income so that you know your money is going to last longer than you do. It's so incredibly important.
It is so important. It's important to have enough income streams, which I think a lot of folks, you know, we've been taught to save, to put money away. I know a lot of folks that you're working with are very hardworking. They've been, you know, working for years and putting money away into those 401ks, those IRAs, those workplace retirement plans. And then all of a sudden it comes time to turn on that income. And a lot of people just don't know how to do it, right? And so let's start with, what are some of the different types of retirement income that are available to folks that they need to be taking into consideration as part of an overall financial plan?
You know, it's funny, about a week ago, Chris and I was talking to a gentleman that came in and we started talking about his income. He had major concerns around, you know, do I have enough and all of that? And I said, well, you know, there's different types of income. And he just kind of looked at me and was like, well, what do you mean there's different types of income? And he thought I meant Social Security or a pension or dividends or what have you. But really, at a high level, there's two types of income.
Okay.
So the two types of income that you want to be thinking about for your retirement is guaranteed income versus non-guaranteed income. So let's start with guaranteed income. Guaranteed income, we call it in the office mailbox money. It's money that's going to hit your mailbox or your bank account every single month from now until the day you're no longer here. So that could be Social Security, that could be pensions, maybe you've turned on an annuity so you have a permanent income coming in off of that, but guaranteed income. The second type of income you want to evaluate in your retirement plan is your non-guaranteed income. So that would be things like dividends or income that your investments generate. While that's great, it's not guaranteed. Those investments can increase the dividend sometimes, they can lower the dividend sometimes. It could be rental income, right? That's non-guaranteed. What happened if we have COVID again and there's a moratorium put on rents and you know, you don't have to pay, right? So we've got to make sure we break it into those two categories. And then where we go from there is we take it one step further. That's where the customization comes in for you. Some folks want all the money they're going to need for an entire month to be guaranteed. Like, man, I just want to make sure this thing hits my mailbox. I need $5,000 every month. It better be there. Other folks say, you know what? I need $5,000 every month. My guaranteed income is going to be $3,000, but I'd like to take that other $2,000 or whatever the difference is going to be freely from my accounts so that I can be a little bit more flexible and nimble in the way that my income comes in. And there's no right or wrong to any of that. That's a personal preference. But what we want to make sure is we clearly define guaranteed versus non-guaranteed. And then we're also looking at the amount of money that someone needs every month or every year to make their lifestyle work.
Those are such important pieces of the puzzle that all have to fit and work together. And we say this on the show all the time, how you make a decision in one area of your financial life does and will affect all the others. And that's why it's such an important distinction. And I'm glad that you unpacked that for sure about what types of income people need in retirement. Angela, I'm curious because I know you both are meeting with folks constantly. And we talked about a lot of people just want to know if they're going to be okay. But what do you find at the heart of that issue? What is it that most folks actually want in retirement?
Well, obviously, number one, they want to make sure that they don't run out of money. But when we translate that, they just want to have choice. They want to have control over their life.
Yes.
One of the things that I hear repeated time and time again is, hey, I just want to make sure I don't run out of money and I get to live where I want to live. That is a really big thing in retirement. Sometimes people want to make sure that, like Scott was saying, that guaranteed income, some people want to make sure they have that for almost everything throughout their life. Others, like Scott was saying, we get a big chunk, a solid portion, maybe our sit on the porch number, we'll talk a little bit more about that, but how much we need each month, that comes in on the paycheck. And then for all the things up and above that, we might draw that off of investments. So it's not all guaranteed, it's mostly guaranteed. Does that make sense?
It does. And I love that you're presencing that people want to have options.
Yes.
Right? They don't want to be confined based on the fear of running out of money or not having enough. And I think it's important to point out the reason why this is becoming such a growing issue for folks is we are living longer than we ever have before. This longevity risk, if you will. I mean, previous generations didn't have this length of time to plan for because typically you retired around 62 and maybe you passed away as early as 65 or 70. Well, now someone could easily have another 20, 25, 30 years in retirement that you need to make sure you have an income for.
Yes, and most of us aren't thinking that way. So I'm glad you brought that up. Most of us really don't think about that expansion of time. Our retirements are very different than our parents and our grandparents.
They are, yes, for sure. So I know folks watching today, they might be thinking, oh gosh, this is a concern. It's keeping me up at night. It's robbing me of peace of mind. This fear of, am I going to outlive my money? What would you say to someone who's watching who might be experiencing that?
Oh my gosh, I would say, come in and visit with us. We can help you answer those questions for yourself. One of the biggest things that we see as a risk for people to run out of money is their risk in the market. So you might have money going up and down in some of your different money buckets, but do you know how risky they are? Probably not. You'll probably be surprised. Please come in. Let us do a portfolio review just for you on your accounts so you'll actually know exactly where you are when it comes to that risk. Pick up the phone, call us, get it done. You will feel so much better.
Angela, Scott, thank you so much. To our viewers at home, we are going to take a quick commercial break, but we encourage you, give yourself the gift of the peace of mind that can come from getting an opinion, getting a portfolio review from the team at Compass Retirement. All you need to do is pick up the phone and call that number on the bottom of your screen, 844-861-5203. You can also take out your smartphone. Simply scan that QR code in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. That will take you over to a landing page, ask you a few simple questions, and a member of the team at Compass Retirement will reach out to you to schedule your time for your complimentary, no cost, no charge, no obligation portfolio review. When we come back, we're going to be talking about how do you begin to figure out how much income you're going to need to live off of in retirement. Do you know what that number is? Do you have any idea? How do you go about figuring that out? I'm going to ask Scott and Angela more about that right after this.
At Compass Retirement, we have a very specific way that we love to help people plan. It's actually a trademark system, and we call it RetireSimply.
When we put together your plan, it is on one page. We use this plan as a really easy way for you to organize in your mind what your money's doing and how it's behaving.
We have made an acronym to make it very easy to remember. Simply stands for S, shelter your money. A portion of your your retirement savings has to be protected from the stock market going down. Very important. I, income generation. Without income, you don't have a retirement. How do you maximize your Social Security? What's that sit on the porch number that it takes you every month just to exist in retirement? M stands for Medicare and long-term care planning. Alleviates all of that burden that might come down the road. P stands for protecting your legacy. You know, you've worked hard all of these years to save, so let's make sure that it gets where you want it to get to in the most tax efficient and best manner. L, something we're very passionate about, means less to the IRS. We've got to have a plan so that we are paying the least amount of taxes to get you to and through retirement. And then lastly, yearly strategy visits.
Having it organized this way is what gives us the ability to be flexible and nimble. So when, not if, but when our retirement environment changes, we are always in a good position to be able to get you the income that you need in retirement.
Your plan is a living, breathing thing because you are a living, breathing person. So it takes constant monitoring and constant updating to make sure your plan's always in line with the retirement vision you have.
So at Compass Retirement, it's all about retiring simply.
Welcome back to Retire Simply DFW with Scott and Angela Winstead. They are the co-founders of Compass Retirement, and I'm your host, Kristen Oakley. We've been talking today about this important question, a question that often keeps a lot of folks up at night. This question of, will I outlive my money? And we don't want you up at night worrying about that, and we are breaking it down for you today. And you know, Scott and Angela, we've talked about how important it is for folks to identify how much income they're going to need to live off of in retirement. And you know, what's interesting is I've been in this industry for over a decade, and recently I was asked how much did I know what my number was, and I had to stop and think about it and say, you know what? I need to revisit this, because at this point there's so much that's happened even recently, and with inflation, as we've talked about on previous shows, I don't know my current number. And that's something that I think folks often need help identifying. And so if someone comes in and they don't know what their number is, walk me through that process. What do you do with folks to help them determine what their income number should be in retirement?
You know, Kristen, I think it was probably, what would you say, hon, like 5 years ago, 6 years ago?
Are you going to talk about Mike?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, babe, I think it's been about 7.5 years.
Oh my gosh, all right. Well,
Yeah.
7.5 years ago,
Yeah, it does.
I had a little bit of black hair left 7.5 years ago. But about 7.5 years ago, Mike came into the office with his wife, and he was about to retire, and he was like, you know, I don't know how much money I need. He's like, I kind of have an idea. I think I've done a good job of saving, but I really don't know. And then he said something that was so profound that Angela and I said, can we use that? He said, I just want to know I have enough to sit on my porch every month. And I said, well, what do you mean by that? And what he meant was not taking vacations, not, you know, being extravagant or, you know, doing the RV and all the grandkids stuff and all that. It's like, I just want to know that I can sit on my front porch and my money's never going to run out. So that's covering your basic life needs, right? And when we think about that, what we really mean is, you know, your taxes, your insurance, your food, your fuel, your prescription medications, and everybody's sit on the porch number is different. So one of the first things we do, Chris, is we help folks figure out that sit on the porch number. And it's funny, as soon as we say the sit on the porch number, everybody remembers it all the time.
Right?
Yep.
It's very
So Mike, if you're
memorable. It's a
watching, thanks so
beautiful
much.
Yes, we love you.
But we love using that term because it's something everyone relates to, but you have to start there. Above and beyond that, then what we're really talking about is then what are all the other fun things, right? So what are the other things we want to add to that?
Right.
And then the income goes up a little bit. And then we start to work backwards and say, okay, well, if that's the end goal, based on what you've been able to save, a lot of other factors, inflation and taxes and all these other things that our plan takes into account. What do we need to do with the bucket of money you've saved to make sure we get that sit on the porch number? And our Retire Simply plan takes that into account.
Yeah, and we have to make sure that when we put that number together that it covers both spouses, right? So we're looking at a lot of different things.
Right.
But I will tell you this, that sit on the porch number is something no one ever forgets. And they want to know how they can figure it out for themselves. Lots of times when I ask people, hey, what do you spend each month? they're not thinking about their property taxes. They're not thinking about, the taxes for their home. They're really not. Usually they remember prescriptions, but not always. And so when we're looking for that sit on the porch number for you, we have put together a fantastic tool. It's called a budget tracker. No, it's not a budget. It's not a budget sheet. It's a budget tracker to track how you spend. It's not confining you. It's just giving you information. So I pass out the budget tracker to so many folks so that we can get really crystal clear on what that sit on the porch number is for you, because that's probably one of the most critical numbers you need to plan your retirement. We got to know how much money you need so that we can make sure you've got it, if that makes sense. So we run through that budget tracker. And one of the other things that has been so powerful for people is not only do we have quit our job or retire from our job. We're not doing our job anymore when we retire, but we also spend a little bit differently and we think a little bit differently. And so 3 months before people retire, I'm like, hey, use your budget tracker every month. Make sure you're living in those numbers so that way when you retire, it's natural. You don't actually have to change anything. So that budget tracker is fundamental to help people figure out their sit on the porch number.
I love that you're talking about it and that it's not a bad thing. I know I've heard the budget word. Sometimes people refer to it as the B word, right? It feels that constricting feeling, but you're saying, no, this is empowering. This is life-giving. You have to know where your money's going so that you can then take the control and tell your money where you want it to go. And that's what you're helping folks do.
Absolutely.
Kristen, you can't plan a successful retirement without knowing what the target you're trying to hit, right? Because there's nothing to evaluate it by, right? So, if you're sitting there and you're thinking to yourself, well, I have absolutely no idea how much I spend every month. Or you're saying to yourself, well, I don't really know what it takes me for my basic life needs, my sit on the porch number. What we would encourage you to do is pick up the phone or scan the QR code, contact our office and come in and visit with us. Let us help you hone in on these numbers. And the way that we do that is through a complimentary portfolio review. Not only are we going to look at the different investments you have and the type of income that those generate, we're going to help you look at and say, okay, how much can you potentially lose? How much can you potentially make? But we're also going to take that information and put it into an income plan. And that income plan is going to cover that sit on the porch number for you every month. It's going to cover both spouses. So, if one of you passes away, are we going to make sure that the other one's okay? It's going to grow and inflate so that your sit on the porch number continues to keep pace with inflation. But we will build that for you complimentary so that that your retirement's going to work out the way that you want. But we can't do any of our great work until you take the first step. And the first step is taking some action, picking up the phone, scanning the QR code, and getting on our calendar to come in and visit with us. Whether you're in Dallas, whether you're in Fort Worth, or anywhere in between in the Metroplex, we've got you covered. Schedule a time to come in and visit with our retirement planners.
Scott, Angela, thank you so much. I know that there's so many people out there going, yes, I can't wait to meet with you, and the phones are ringing. So here's what we're going to do. The next 10 callers, because the team at Compass Retirement is very busy, but they want to help as many of you as possible. The next 10 callers, all you got to do is pick up the phone and call 844-861-5203, or you can scan that QR code and that will get you connected to be able to come in and get your complimentary portfolio review. No matter where you live in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex area, this team is going to be able to help you and serve you, but you got to pick up the phone and call. So we encourage you, we're going to take a quick commercial break. Call the number on the bottom of your screen and we have more for you after this.
As a good saver, you've been putting away money during your working years. Studies find that the biggest fear of retirees is running out of money. Market volatility isn't just the downward movement of stock prices, it's the size and frequency of change. The more dramatic the ups and downs, the higher the volatility. This can put savers who are newly retired or a few years away from being retired at greater risk. Today's generation of retirees is not receiving traditional pensions as our parents or grandparents did. Instead, we have retirement accounts such as 401ks or 403bs. These accounts typically expose your money to market risk. The last thing you want right before retirement is to lose a portion of the money you need for income. But how do you turn these accounts into a retirement income? Is it safe to keep all your retirement money sitting in the stock market? The last thing you want is to lose a portion of the money you need for income due to market loss. By working with a financial professional, you can learn how to turn a portion of your savings into an income stream for life and income for the life of your spouse if you're married. We all have moments in our lives when we wish we had taken action sooner. Don't let procrastination reign on your retirement parade. Act now before it's too late. Please call our office to set up your no-cost, no-obligation retirement income review today.
Welcome back to Retire Simply DFW with Scott and Angela Winstead. They are the co-founders of 𝗃𝗃𝗵𝗶 Retirement. I'm your host, Kristen Oakley. And we were talking before the break about the importance of this budget tracker. And I think a lot of folks have some shame around really looking and seeing where their money's going. But to your point, this is really empowering because then you can get a plan. And it reminds me of like a GPS, right? I mean, you can't, as you said, Scott, you have to know where you're starting from in order to get to where you want to go. And a quick funny story, the first time my husband and I met with a financial planner, he was kind of skeptical about this whole thing. I think a lot of folks are, right, in our industry. And he was like, well, I just want to buy a brand new F-150. Show me how to make that happen. And so the planner sat down and was able to crunch the numbers and say, okay, here you go. He's like, really? I can go buy this truck? He's like, yeah. And he's a fan now ever since, right? But that's what you do for people. You help their dreams come true and help them achieve their goals.
Yes.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head, Kristen. So many folks, I think, naturally have some shame and uncomfortableness around talking about this, especially if it's just some basic questions like, well, how much do you spend every month? Well,
I don't know.
I don't really know.
That's the common answer, right?
How much do you need in retirement? I hadn't really thought about it. Well, what happens if one of you pass away? I guess we'll be okay.
And that's never a fun thing to think about anyway, right?
And we have to make sure that the plan is in place to take all those things into account. But you can't get to the question of, or the answer, let me back up. You can't get to the answer of, hey, you're going to be okay until we get some of those questions answered.
Yes.
Right? It's kind of like when you go to the doctor. You know, you're not feeling well, and you start to tell the doctor your symptoms, and the doctor in their head probably already has a pretty good idea of what you need and how they're going to help you feel better and all that, but they always start at the same spot. They take your blood pressure. They listen to your heart. They ask if you're allergic to anything, right? They look in maybe your eyes and your nose and your throat. They go through the standard procedure so that they get to a place where they then can customize a plan for you to feel better. Retirement planning is no different. We can't get to the customization and the planning of, yeah, go out and spend all this money on an RV or a fifth wheel, or go take this river cruise and you'll be able to pass on, this money to your kids. We can't get to that point until we start to say, how much do you spend every month? How much do you want every month? How much is guaranteed versus non-guaranteed of that income, right? We've got to sit down and get the basics put in place so that we can build you a plan that's going to free you to know that you're going to be able to accomplish all the things you want to accomplish in retirement.
And I love that you provide such a safe place for people to have some of these harder conversations, because I'm sure some folks watching are going, I don't know the answers to these questions. And along with that shame, I know that the number one cause of financial failure is procrastination. And a lot of folks procrastinate in picking up the phone, calling, coming in, because they're like, I don't know the answers to these questions and they're going to ask me these questions. So if someone's watching and they legitimately do not have an answer for these important questions, what would you say to someone who's struggling with that?
Yeah, I would say good recognition, right? Good understanding that you don't know. That empowers you to get some answers. Guess what? We can help you know. And this is one thing. You'll hear us talk about numbers and structure and portfolio and risk, and these are all very important things. However, the way that you feel about your money really dictates your retirement. So knowing what you spend empowers you. Knowing how we arrange your money so that it will last longer than you do empowers you. It empowers your mind so that you are freed up, you can enjoy the retirement that you want to have. We have the tools to help you do that. And one thing I always say, and you'll know this when you come in, All of our conference rooms tables are round. And I always say, right around this round table, there is no shoulda, woulda, coulda. We are exactly where we are right here, right now. And what our job is to do is to help you make your money as efficient and as effective as we possibly can for your retirement. How does that sound? And it's not where you've been and what you've done. It's what can we make of it. And giving us the information of your sit on the porch number and how much you need, we can absolutely guide you through that. And one way we do that is income. Remember, when you retire, you won't have a paycheck coming in from your employer. So a part of our Retire Simply plan is I stands for income. And we need to know how much money is going to come in for you to live on each month. And one of those things that we sometimes draw from are your investments. So we need to know how risky they are. Come in. We will go through a portfolio review for you, which will really break down exactly how your money is in the market so you understand the risk. And it does not matter if you're in Dallas, if you're in Fort Worth, if you're in Louisville, anywhere in the Metroplex, we will be able to help you. We've expanded because we've had such a fantastic response from you guys. I'm proud of you all. You're ready to get up, you're getting it done, you're picking up the phone, you're making it happen. And when you get the work done, that will naturally alleviate stress. You'll go through retirement happier. I bet you will. So I would invite you to get over any shame or any fear. Nobody knows everything about retirement. We know a lot of things, not everything. Nobody knows everything. And it's okay that you might not know some of the things that you think you need to know. We will help you find them. Pick up the phone, come on in and visit with us. Like I said, that first thing we'll do for you is a absolutely no charge for a portfolio review. Call us, let us help you with that.
Angela, I love that you're sharing all of that. And I know, Scott, too, I know we're getting to the end of our time. It always goes so quickly. But as part of that portfolio review, you're going to look at other sources of income, things like Social Security, pensions, right? I mean, there's so much to navigate.
Yes.
There are. I think, when you're looking at your income and making sure you're not going to run out, that income plan has to not only take into account your investments, but when do you turn on Social Security? What's the best time? And who should draw off of whom in the relationship? And maybe you're one of those fortunate people to have a pension. And when do you take that? And what does that do to Medicare premiums and taxation and just all these things that happen? So our Retire Simply plan and the complimentary portfolio review is the first step in starting to put all the pieces together of the jigsaw puzzle, getting it laid out so that it paints the picture of exactly what you want this stage of life to look at. So as Angela mentioned, pick up the phone, scan the QR code, come in and visit with us for your complimentary review. We can't wait to see you. Like we said, whether Dallas or Fort Worth, we got you covered.
Scott, Angela, thank you so much. This was so valuable, and I know our viewers at home are so blessed by the information you've shared today. We encourage you, make that important phone call, 844-861-5203. We will see you next week, and as we like to say around here, bye-bye. Bye.